Good afternoon, Hyattsville Church. I hope everyone is doing well. My prayers go out to your member who's in a coma, and of course to your pastor and his family as he is recovering. We've got lots of material to cover today. We're going to travel into space 7 million miles away and come back to Earth. We're going to talk about the $2 billion lottery and a variety of other things. But I want to start off with giving you the Bible verses that I'm going to use. If you want to take note of them, and then when we go through the presentation, you'll be able to have easy reference. Isaiah 12, verses 4 to 5, which is our scripture reading today. Isaiah 12, verses 4 to 5. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. Daniel 12, verse 4. Daniel 12, verse 4. Jeremiah 22, verse 16. Jeremiah 22, verse 16. Job 2, verse 6. Job 2, verse 6. Isaiah 1, verse 17. Isaiah 1, verse 17. And Matthew 22, verses 36 to 40. Matthew 22, verses 36 to 40. So the title of the sermon this afternoon is Thank-Full. Are you thankful only when your tank is full? What if your tank, like mine is when I'm on the road, close to empty? What if that needle is dropping down? Are you still thankful when your tank is not full? Or when you go to the gas station with the prices that are high now, or you're standing in line at Costco trying to get the cheapest gas, and you look at how things have gone up in price. And Lydia mentioned this, how things are so expensive. Prices have gone up because of inflation. Are you thankful? And my friend points out to me, thankful is different from being grateful. Grateful is more of a spirit. You may have heard the phrase, have an attitude of gratitude. So we'll talk a little bit about this thankfulness for something and gratefulness. But first, we need to talk about current events. And I like to focus on science and world events and politics, things that Adventists who focus on the end times, it's something that Lydia also mentioned with your Lifeline project. You should know what is happening in the world with a variety of spheres, because that's what Christ talked about in Matthew, looking at signs of the end. So here's some things that I'd like to bring to your attention. In Daniel 12, verse 4, in the New International Version, Daniel 12, verse 4, it says, "But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the end of time. Many will go here and there to secure knowledge." Other verses, other translations say, "And knowledge will increase, and many will run to and fro." Let's tell you how rapidly knowledge is increasing. According to Stanford University Medical News, in an article published on October 12 of this year, human brain cells were transplanted into a rat's brain to study neuropsychiatric research. Human brain cells put into a rat's brain where they began to function. With respect to our travel to outer space and back, on October 11 of this year, NASA, the National Aeronautics Space Administration, issued a press release about its DART mission, and DART stands for the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. NASA, which is the US Space Agency, sent a vehicle into space that traveled 7 million miles. And the goal of this DART mission was for this vehicle to strike an asteroid. There was a larger asteroid and a smaller asteroid. The larger asteroid was called Didymus, and the smaller one was called Dimorphos. And Dimorphos was projected, this could be an asteroid that could strike the Earth at some point. And this test was designed to see whether humans could alter the course or the trajectory of the asteroid to take it off a collision course with the Earth. And this is what the NASA press release says. NASA confirms the DART mission impact changed the asteroid's motion in space. This marks humanity's first time purposefully changing the motion of a celestial object and the first full-scale demonstration of asteroid deflection. Amazing. And if you're wondering how far is 7 million miles, the distance between the Earth and the moon is approximately 238,900 miles. So if you wanted to travel 7 million miles, you would need to go back and forth between the Earth and the moon approximately 29 times. So imagine 7 million miles, we send a device and it makes a direct hit, bullseye, all the calculations, all the gravitational forces, that is simply outstanding. Of course, I'm sure you folks have been following the war in Ukraine, Russia's illegal occupation of Ukraine and destruction of the country, and how Ukraine is fighting back with help from the Western world, the democracies in the world. I'm sure you're following the protests in Iran, where a woman was picked up from the street by the morality police, and that's what they're called, morality police, because she didn't have a face covering her hair in an appropriate fashion. And she was not from Iran proper or the major cities. She was from a smaller province. And she was returned to her family dead with traumatic injuries. The government says, oh, she had some heart problem. But other people who were with her testified that the morality police smashed her head into the wall of the van and did other violent things against her, which caused her death. And the Iranian people are rising up. And now they're saying death to the dictator, which is not the United States in this case, which is their usual chant, death to America. Now it's death to the dictator, which are the theologians and the one supreme theologian or Ayatollah who controls their country in every single aspect. North Korea is firing missiles left and right, literally left and right, across Japan, across South Korea, into the sea, becoming more and more belligerent and bellicose, and is apparently supplying Russia with artillery rounds because Russia doesn't have enough for its illegal invasion and war in Ukraine. In China, President Xi has taken a third 5-year term, becoming an all-powerful supreme leader of China. And we've talked about this before, where the Uyghur Muslim population, genocide is being committed against them, where the Chinese internet is completely controlled by censors, where you're not permitted to speak freely, where you're surveilled with a system of cameras throughout every sphere of society, that your motions are tracked, there's facial recognition software, and the society is under full control of the authorities who have all the powers of the state, the police and the military, to enforce their will from the top down on the people, where freedom of thought and expression is not permitted if it goes against the government's position. In respect to politics, I know some of you are sensitive, but I must say that is what Adventists believe on. End times, the prophecies are about nation states and the beast. So I want to tell you just a little bit. We're in the midterm election cycle, which is closing out. Is the Congress going to change hands in the House? Is it going to change hands in the Senate? That's going to have a big impact on how the president will function, how the country will function, and what will happen in the 2024 elections. So I'm going to read to you a quote from a member of the Republican Party. And of course, you can find things that are derogatory that people say from the Democrat Party or independent parties, but I think you should hear this one. This is from Lauren Boebert, who is a congresswoman, and she's speaking about the First Amendment, in particular, the separation of church and state. And this is from the Washington Post, June 28, 2022. This is what she says, quote, "The church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church. That is how our founding fathers intended it." These are all quotation. "I'm tired of the separation of church and state junk. That's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter. And it means nothing like what they say it does." Now, I've spoken with you before, letting you know that I had the opportunity to sit with the late Supreme Court Justice William Brennan, who wrote a significant separation of church and state case with the free exercise clause, which involved an Adventist woman. In that case was Sherbert v. Werner. And I asked Justice Brennan about the First Amendment. So here, Representative Boebert says, the church is supposed to direct the government. I'm tired of the separation of church and state junk that's not in the Constitution. Well, I need to inform you and correct the record. Separation of church and state, that phrase is not in the Constitution, but what is in the Constitution is that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So you folks should be carefully watching what is happening in the political sphere. So back to this theme of being thankful and being grateful, which are two different things. My question to you is, if you are not thankful, if you are not grateful for what God has done for you, how can you spread the good news? Many of you have struggled and suffered during this COVID period. I know members have lost their loved ones. How can we be thankful when we struggle, when we have challenges? And then how can we share with others the good news if we have our own trials and tribulations? How are you to explain that to others? Aren't you a favored people? Aren't there plans that are laid up for you that are plans for good? Then if that's the case, why are you suffering? Why did you lose that loved one? Why is this church member in the coma? Why? Why are all these bad things happening? Why are they permitted to happen? So I'll tell you, when I hear people say, oh, this is God's plan. This is not God's plan for man and woman to suffer. That is Satan's plan and Satan's design. God does not want us to suffer. God put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, which was perfect. He gave them dominion over the earth. He told them, you are charged with being the stewards of the life on this planet. And as it's written in Genesis, when God looked at the handiwork of his creation, he said, it is good. Everything was supposed to be good, but it's not. And that's because of sin. So don't be confused when people say, this is God's plan. There is a plan that God has, the plan of salvation, yes, but it is not God's plan that children suffer, that the elderly suffer, that people are dying of starvation. There's war and pestilence. That is not God's plan for us. So then if we are struggling and we do face challenges, what is there to be thankful about? And what is there to be grateful about? So I'll offer you two responses. First, we have a life on this earth where we travel a difficult path, the narrow path, not the wide and easy path. We face challenges here. Each one has a lot that is different than the other. But the other path that we have is a spiritual path, where after this life, there is a reward laid up for us in heaven. There's a song, I've got a mansion just over the hilltop. Christ promised that he would come back and take us to be with him, where in his Father's house, there are many mansions that are prepared for us. So on the one hand, your reward is waiting for you. It's on you to be faithful on the spiritual journey. On the earthly journey, which is a physical journey with challenges and tribulations, that is a test of your spiritual belief in how you manage and handle the challenges that are thrust upon you. And as I noted, are these challenges that God is throwing upon us? Where do they come from? Let's look at Job 2, verse 6. And all the verses I'm reading are coming from the New International Version. Job 2, verse 6. Then the Lord said to Satan, very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. So in this verse, the context is Satan was walking to and fro on the earth and appeared in the counsels of God, as he had supplanted Adam's role as the steward of the earth. And God says, look at my servant Job. There's none like him. And Satan says to God, yeah, that's right, because you are protecting him and you are blessing him. Take away your protection. Let him face some tribulation, and then let's see what he does. So God was blessing Job. Job was faithful. And God removed his blessing and protection from Job, and he let Satan try Job. That's what Satan wants to do. He wants to try us. He wants to kill us. And here God is particular. Do what you may, but spare his life. And short of killing Job, Satan destroyed everything near and dear to Job, his children, his wealth, all taken away. His wife saying, "Curse God and die," seemingly having no comfort from his friends. Everything that Satan could do short of killing Job, he took full advantage of. That is Satan's plan for our lives, not God's plan. So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to be thankful for these challenges and tribulations? Are we supposed to look at gold going through the fire to be refined, to be improved? So Ellen White talks about us forging our characters here on earth that we take to heaven in terms of what do we do and how do we deal with the challenges in life. If you are not a fan, you cannot then cheer for the team. And you can't bring your friends to say, be a fan of this team. I follow this team. I grew up following the Washington football team. When I learned that my American Indian friends were not happy with the name of the team, the nickname, I stopped saying the name. When the new owner came and ran the team into the ground, was accused of all sorts of impropriety, I stopped following my favorite football team. I stopped reading about the team. I didn't watch the team on TV. I stopped listening to it on the radio. A team that I had grown up following, and on Sundays setting time to watch the football games, which brought so much pleasure to me and my friends, I completely put it away. I told my kids, we're not saying the name of the team. We're not following the team. I was not a fan. And if I'm not a fan and I have nothing good to say, why would anybody else look to me in support of that team? How could I go to anybody else and say, this is a great team. You should follow this team. There's lots of benefits to be had. They could easily look at me and my life and say, well, you don't follow the team. You don't care for the team. You don't support the team. Why should we? What has the team done for you? You're not singing the praises of the team. And so it is with God. If we have not squared the challenges in our life to look at what we are thankful for and what there is to be grateful for, everlasting life, redemption, Christ's sacrifice, that plan, then I argue it is difficult for us to go forth and spread the good news. If we cannot put in the balance, who is providing the challenge? Who has the plan to save us? Who has the plan to prosper us? Let's look at Jeremiah 29:11. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you." Let me repeat that. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans for you and your future. That's what God has for us. Now let's turn to Matthew 22:36-40. So here, Christ is called, teacher, teacher, what is the greatest command? What is the greatest command in the law? And I'm paraphrasing. What is the greatest command in the law? And Jesus replies, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. This is the first and greatest command. And as you know, if you look at the 10 commandments, the first 4 relate to our relationship with God. And the second is like it. He says, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these commandments. So the second one, love your neighbor, tracks the next 6 commandments. Christ boiled it down, love God and love your neighbor. So loving your neighbor is an expression of your thankfulness and your gratitude to God. In letting the world know about his goodness, which is our text for today, Isaiah 12, 4-5. Give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make known among the nations what he has done, and proclaim that his name be exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known to all the world. I want to tell you about a gentleman that I met with yesterday. I went furniture shopping, and I went to the largest furniture store in the world. And it was several buildings and several floors. And then there's a separate building for the outlet center. And next door to it was a store with Oriental rugs, Persian rugs, Indian rugs, Afghani rugs. It's a fancy store, but for whatever reason, I didn't want to go to that store. It was literally across the parking lot from the store where I was. And I looked up on my map, Persian rugs, Oriental rugs. And I understand some people say, oh, don't say Oriental. But in the context of rugs, people understand what I'm talking about. And so I go to the store. It was 4 o'clock. Sabbath is 5 o'clock. And I told the folks there that, I'm just coming to take a look. I can come back another day. And then, I'm not going to be doing business after sundown. And an elderly gentleman came out of one of the offices and came over, and we started talking. And I had read some time ago when I was doing my research on, I'll call these Persian rugs, that there was a gentleman in this community who gave away 80% of his business to support charity work, that he gave away his office buildings for the Chamber of Commerce, that he gave away 100,000 square foot building and the land to a charity, and that he had started a charity in his native country to help the poor and the needy. And of all the stores that I end up in this city, which is world famous in the country for furniture, I end up in this man's shop. And of all the people that are there, this man is in the shop, and he comes out to talk. And when he said his name, which is Zaki Khalifa, Z-A-K-I, and his last name is Khalifa, K-H-A-L-I-F-A, and he is a Muslim. When he told me his name, I looked it up. I said, sir, respectfully, are you Zaki Khalifa, who's given almost all of his money to charity? And he said, yes. He said, sir, I would like very much to talk to you if you would spend time telling me why you do all these charitable works. And he said, oh, please. We talked about the rugs that he has in the shop, and he has one of the finest carpet shops in America. People from all over the world come to his carpet shop. And he said, I'm going to be wrapping up my business. I'm an elderly man. Everything I have here, all the proceeds, every cent goes to support the poor and needy. And he has some very fine rugs in the shop. One of the carpets that I saw, the price tag on the carpet, $200,000. He told me that a couple came into a shop and bought 77 carpets for their house. Who has a house where you can fit 77 carpets? They gave him a down payment check in the millions. He says, I'm not worried about that. 77 carpets. Who has that kind of wealth? Amazing. And these carpets, they bought 40 from the special room where I saw one of them, which was $200,000. So I had the chance to sit with him in his office, and he shared his family history, which is very interesting. And he talked about charity work. And then we talk about Christianity and Islam and Hinduism, and he seeks to bridge the differences between peoples. And he believes in his heart in charity, in particular, work with orphans, which is something that is particular for me. Hence, I was fascinated with a man who's given up 80% of his wealth to support charity work. I want to read to you what he says about that as to why, and also read part of a citation that he received from a local university with respect to his charitable works in the community. And this is a Muslim who are followers of the God of Abraham, as we are. So this is from the Order of the Long Leaf Pine, which was presented to him by the president of High Point University in 2015. And the president of High Point University said this about Mr. Khalifa. He has been a person who has promoted the kind of values that are noble and precious to each of us. And with respect to Mr. Khalifa giving 80% of his wealth to support the poor and the needy, he says this: I want to spend my remaining years impacting the lives of the maximum amount of people. This is an area where I can help them. I can help thousands of children. We need education. These are for the most desperate kids that have no hope for the future. That's interesting. Here's a man who is looking to help his fellow man, those with no hope for the future. That echoes back to what God says in Jeremiah 29, verse 11. I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. What does it take to know me, says the Lord? In Jeremiah 22:16, it says, he defended the cause of the poor and the needy, and so all went well. Is that not what it means to know me, declares the Lord? And in Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. In our children's story, you heard about doing things to help others. In your Lifeline program, you have a project in place to help your neighbors in times of trouble. My friends, times of trouble are already here in North Korea, in Ukraine, in China, in Somalia, in Venezuela. You name a place, there's a time of trouble. And there's a time of trouble in America as well. One of my golfing friends, who's a retired history professor, he says, where do you think the most dangerous place is in the world for an American? I had a quick answer. In America. Sadly, being in a school for a child is one of the most dangerous places. Being in certain cities, more Americans are killed there than they're killed anywhere else around the world. We have challenges, trials, and tribulations. The question is, how do we manage them and put them into perspective, not losing sight that Christ has a plan for us to save us? It is Satan who seeks to harm us. And what can we do as followers of Christ, as his stewards, to help those around us, to help lift them up, to give them a reason to be thankful, and to give them a reason to be grateful? May God bless you, Hyattsville Church, in your ministry, in sharing the good news and uplifting the poor and the needy.